Today I'm gonna read the central neural system. The brain is the central information processing organ of our body and acts as a command and control system. It controls the voluntary movement, balance of body, functioning of vital involuntary organs such as lung, heart, kidney, etc. Thermoregulation, hunger and thirst, circadian rhythms of our body, activities of several endocrine glands and human behavior. It also the site for processing of vision, hearing, speech, memory, intelligence, emotion and thoughts. The human brain is well protected by skull. Inside the skull, the brain is covered by cranial meninges, consisted of an outer layer of dura mater, a very thin middle layer called arachnoid, and inner layer called pia mater. The brain can be divided into three major parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the next topic is forebrain. The forebrain consists of cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Cerebrum forms the major part of the human brain. A deep cleft divides the cerebrum longitudinally into two halves, which are termed as left and right cerebral hemisphere. The hemisphere are connected by tract of nerve fiber called corpus callosum. So corpus callosum is a tract of nerve fibers. Okay. The layer of cell which covered the cerebral hemisphere is called cerebral cortex and is thrown into prominent fold. The cerebral cortex is referred to as the gray matter due to its grayish appearance. The neuron cell bodies are connected here, giving the color. The cerebral cortex contains motor areas, sensory areas, and large regions that are neither clearly sensory nor motor in function. This region called the association areas and responsible for complex function like insensory, association, memory, and communication. Fibers of the tracts are covered with the myelin sheath, which constitute the inner part of cerebral hemisphere. They give an opaque white appearance to the layer and hence is called white matter. The cerebrum wraps around a structure called thalamus, which is a major coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling. A very important part of the brain called hypothalamus lies at base of the thalamus. The hypothalamus contains a number of centers which control body temperature, urge for eating and drinking. It also contains several groups of neurosecretory cells which secrete hormone called hypothalamic hormones. The inner part of cerebral hemisphere and a group of association deep structure like amygdala, hippocampus, etc. form a complex structure called limbic lobe or limbic system. Along with the hypothalamus, it is involved in the regulation of sexual behavior, expression of emotional reaction such as excitement, pleasure, rage, and fear, and motivation. Just for clearance, the brain is divided in three major parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the forebrain consists cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Remember that forebrain contains cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus, and the hindbrain contains pons, cerebrum, and medulla. The hindbrain contains pons, cerebrum, and medulla, and then the midbrain is in between the forebrain and hindbrain. So the midbrain is in between the forebrain of thalamus and hypothalamus and the hindbrain of pons. That means I want to say that the midbrain is located between the thalamus and hypothalamus of forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. That means this is located between the forebrain and hindbrain. Forebrain have two parts, thalamus and hypothalamus, then and the hindbrain a part of pons, and in middle there is the midbrain. So now let's talk about the midbrain. The midbrain is located between the thalamus, hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. A canal called cerebral aqueduct passes through the midbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain consists mainly of 4 round swelling. The dorsal portion of the midbrain contains mainly of 4 round swelling called corpora quadrigemina. Anterior part of the midbrain contains 2 longitudinal myelinated nerve fiber pendacles called cerebral pendacel or crura cerebri. Crura cerebri control the muscle of limbs. On the posterior part of midbrain are found for spherical projection called colliculus or optic lobe. 4 colliculus are collectively called as corpora quadrigemina, 2 upper and 2 lower. So let's talk about the hindbrain now. It comprises pons, cerebrum and medulla oblongata. So now let's talk about the hindbrain. The hindbrain comprises pons, cerebellum and medulla, also called the medulla oblongata. Pons contain of fiber tract that interconnect different regions of the brain. Cerebellum has very convoluted surface in order to provide the additional space for many more neurons. The medulla of the brain is connected to the spinal cord. The medulla contains center which control respiration, cardiovascular reflexes and gastric secretion. 3 major regions make up the brain stem and midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. 3 major regions make up the brain stem. 3 major regions make up the brain stem, midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. So that said, the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata, these are the 3 major regions which make up the brain stem. Brain stem forms the connection between the brain and spinal cord. This is so important. Cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. So let's talk about the additional knowledge of cerebrospinal fluid. So let's talk about the cerebrospinal fluid or CSF. The fluid is clear and alkaline in nature, just like lymph. It has protein like glucose, cholesterol, urea, bicarbonates, sulfate and chlorides of sodium, potassium, protein and cholesterol. Concentration is lesser than plasma and chlorine concentration is higher than plasma. That said that sodium, potassium, protein and cholesterol concentration is lesser than plasma and the chlorine concentration is higher than plasma. In a healthy man, in 24 hours, 500 ml of cerebrospinal fluid is formed and absorbed by arachnoid villi. At a time, total volume of cerebrospinal fluid is 150 ml. Cerebrospinal fluid is present in ventricle of brain, subarachnoid space of brain, and spinal cord. Function of CSF. It acts as shock absorbing medium and work as a cushion for protection of brain. It provides bouncy of the brain, so net weight of the brain is reduced from about 1.4 kg to about 0.18 kg. That means the brain weight is 1.4 kg, and for the CSF 0.18 kg of the brain weight reduced. Excretion of waste product. Function of CSF. One of the function of CSF is excretion of waste product and endocrine medium for the brain to transport hormone to different areas of the brain. Hypothalamus has control center for hunger, thirst, fatigue, sleep, sweating, body temperature, and emotion. It also secretes a number of hormones. The inner part of cerebral hemisphere and a group of associated deep structure like amygdala, hippocampus, etc. formed a complex structure called the limbic lobe or limbic system. Along with the hypothalamus, it is involved in regulation of sexual behavior, expression of emotional reaction such as excitement, pleasure, rage, and fear, and motivation. So let's talk about the hindbrain in detail. It comprises pons, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. So now let's talk about the pons. It is spherical projection which is situated below the midbrain and upper side of medulla oblongata. Pons function as a relay center among different parts of brain. It also processes two respiratory center, pneumotoxic area and apenostic area. Cerebrum or cerebellum. That's a part where students are also confused. Cerebrum is a part of the forebrain. Cerebrum, cerebrum, cerebrum is a part of the forebrain. And now the cerebellum, cerebellum, cerebellum is a part of hindbrain. It is made up of 3 lobes, 2 lateral lobes and 1 vermis, divided in 9 segments. It is second largest part of the brain, constitute about 12.5% of the total body volume of brain. It lies behind cerebrum and above medulla oblongata. It coordinates muscle activity of body and also maintain equilibrium of posture of the body as during walking, jumping, lifting, catching, bending, etc. So cerebrum work as a coordinates muscle activity of the body and also maintain equilibrium of posture of the body as during walking, jumping, lifting, catching, bending, etc. Medulla oblongata. It is hindmost part of the brain which lies below cerebellum. So now let's talk about the medulla oblongata of the hindbrain. It is the hindmost part of the brain which lies below cerebellum. It continues behind into spinal cord, medulla oblongata, has a fluid-filled cavity called fourth ventricle. Its roof bears posterior choroid plexus for filtering cerebrospinal fluid from blood, and 3 ports for connecting external cerebrospinal fluid with internal cerebrospinal fluid. Medulla oblongata contain a respiratory center for regulating rate of breathing, cardiac center for regulating rate of heartbeat, regulation of blood pressure, reflex center for swallowing, vomiting, coughing, sneezing, salivation, etc. Pons, medulla oblongata and midbrain are collectively called brainstem. This line is so important. Pons, medulla oblongata and midbrain are collectively called brainstem. Brainstem act as a relay center connecting the cerebrum and cerebellum to the spinal cord. It performs many automatic functions such as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, wake and sleep cycle, digestion, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, and swallowing. Brainstem act as a relay center. Pons is in the brainstem, and pons are called also relay center, but the brainstem act as a relay center, connecting the cerebrum and cerebellum to the spinal cord. Connecting the cerebrum and cerebellum to the spinal cord. It performed many automatic functions such as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, wake and sleep cycle, digestion, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, and swallowing.